Chapter 6208. It's funny. The abandoned people of the abandoned immortal forest never give up. Many of them want to enter the immortal region. They're really overestimating themselves. Nayland Fu shook his head. They don't even think about it. What right do they have to enter the immortal region with their status? Abandoned people are abandoned people. Even if they work hard to cultivate, their strength can't surpass the people of the immortal region. Duan Rong's eyes were full of pride. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others didn't say anything. They just listened to Nayland Fu and the others talk. These fellows clearly thought that noble blood flowed in their bones, and they looked down on everyone other than the immortal region. That kind of pride that seemed to be innate really made one speechless. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly understood why Granny Hua and the others chose to live in the abandoned immortal forest. Although the cultivators in front of them were very strong, it was obvious that they were nothing in front of Granny Hua and the others. With these seniors' abilities, it was definitely not difficult to enter the immortal region. Perhaps they couldn't stand the high and mighty attitude of the cultivators of the immortal region. After all, this kind of attitude was really disgusting. Not long after, the flying magic tool landed steadily. All of a sudden, the noise outside became noisy. "All of you get out," Nayland Fu shouted. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others slowly walked out of the flying magic tool, only to find that they were already near a black mine. The environment here was completely different from the abandoned immortal forest. Everywhere they looked was black. There was no green or vitality. These ores looked very hard, as if they had been polished. They were abnormally smooth. Spirit-devouring ores were probably referring to this place. Bailey Hongzhuang tried to use her mind power to touch the spirit-devouring ores, but found that it was very difficult to penetrate. This feeling was similar to the situation in the ancient battlefield. When she was looking for blood spirit stones, the ground was also very difficult to penetrate with her mind power. However, the resistance of this spirit-devouring ores was even greater than that of blood spirit stones. Bewitching and the others were also cautiously looking around. They were not too worried about the current environment. Although their strength was not a match for these people, it was not difficult for them to escape. Brotherly, Duan Rong waved at a big man in front of him with great familiarity. The burly man's figure was extremely sturdy. His entire body was filled with muscles. His skin was dark and his face was rough. It was obvious that he was tanned because he had been guarding the spirit-devouring or here. "Young Master Duan, what brings you here today?" "Brotherly, these are the abandoned people we caught from the abandoned immortal forest. How much can you sell them for?" Hearing this, Li Wei was slightly stunned. His gaze immediately fell on Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Looking at the bearing of these people, he thought they were friends of Duan Rong and others, but he didn't expect them to be the abandoned people of the abandoned immortal forest. "Really?" Li Wei was stunned. "Young Master Duan, the abandoned people you caught are different from the ones you usually see." "Haha, I thought so too when I first saw it." Duan Rong chuckled. "Big Brother Li, these abandoned people have become smarter. I don't know where they bought their supplies from. If it weren't for their low cultivation, I would have thought that they were from the immortal region." Li Wei carefully checked the cultivation of Bewitching and the others. Only then did he relax. "I didn't expect there to be such a thing. No wonder these abandoned people have become more and more difficult to find recently." Chapter 6209. Duan Rong chuckled. "Although these guys aren't very strong, they're still strong. I believe they can work here for a while." "No problem." Li Wei nodded. "Since you brought them here, the price will naturally not be low." Bailey Hongzhuang noticed that Li Wei and Duan Rong had walked to the side. Li Wei even took out some spirit stones and handed them to Duan Rong. After seeing the blood-red spirit stone, Bailey Hongzhuang recognized at a glance that it was the blood spirit stone that they had obtained before. The ancient battlefield was indeed from the immortal region. These blood spirit stones were the spirit stones used by the cultivators of the immortal region. After receiving the payment, Duan Rong smiled and said, "Brotherly, we'll take our leave first. If you find any abandoned people in the future, remember to bring them to me. I definitely won't treat you unfairly." Don't worry. After Duan Rong left, Li Wei looked at Di Beichun and the others and said, "You guys go over there and get your tools. From now on, you'll be mining here. Hand in at least 3 spirit-devouring stones every day. Otherwise, you'll end up like them." Looking in the direction that Li Wei was pointing at, everyone saw a tragic scene. Smack! Long whips ruthlessly lashed the bodies of several cultivators. They seemed to have been mining here all year round. They were skinny, and their bodies were covered in wounds. After a few whips, they were drenched in blood. "You can't even hand in 3 spirit-devouring stones a day. You bunch of trash. Useless things. If you can't dig it out, then die. I'll beat you to death." The roars were mixed with pleas for mercy, causing Bailey Hongzhuang and the others to frown. These cultivators must have come from the abandoned immortal forest, but they were captured by the people of the immortal region to mine here. From then on, they had no freedom and had to stay here all day. These bastards, Ling are cursed. Based on this, it could be seen that the people of the immortal region did not treat the cultivators of the abandoned immortal forest as humans. Fong Qing, these people will follow you. Tell them what you have to do every day. Li Wei waved his hand and summoned a young cultivator. The man looked to be in his 20s. Compared to those cultivators who were beaten up, he looked much better. "Brotherly, don't worry. I will teach them well. Do your best." After Li Wei left, Fong Qing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Her eyes were filled with curiosity, but after noticing the surroundings, she did not say anything. She only said, "Follow me." After receiving the bamboo baskets and shovels, they followed Li Wei into the mine. When there was no one around, Li Wei said, "You don't look like abandoned people. Are you from the Crossing Immortal Domain?" Crossing Immortal Domain. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others heard about this place from the third person. "You know about the Crossing Immortal Domain?" Di Beichun asked tentatively. Fong Qing nodded slightly. "Actually, I came from the Crossing Immortal Domain. I think you guys look very similar." Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other. If it was a normal ascension, they should have come to the immortal region through the Crossing Immortal Domain. However, they did not ascend at all. They came to the abandoned immortal forest through the Chaos Ring. "Brother Fong, why were you captured to mine after ascending to the Crossing Immortal Domain?" Chapter 62:10. Hearing this, Fong Qing sighed. In the past, the Crossing Immortal Domain was the place where everyone ascended. If they could successfully ascend to the Immortal Domain, then they could be called immortals. However, ever since the spirit-devouring mine was discovered, the people of the Immortal Domain were unwilling to mine it themselves. However, they wanted the spirit-devouring stone, so they extended their claws to the abandoned immortal forest and the Crossing Immortal Domain. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others finally understood. When they asked Granny Hua about the matter earlier, Granny Hua only said a few words casually and did not explain in detail, so they were not too clear. Now that Fong Qing said this, they understood a little. Originally, this spirit-devouring mine was mainly done by the abandoned people of the abandoned immortal forest. However, most of these abandoned people have been captured. They really can't find anyone to mine, so they thought of a way to find some people from the Crossing Immortal Domain. Sigh, speaking of which, it's really unlucky. We can only blame our bad luck for encountering this when we ascended. Fong Qing's face could not hide the gloominess. These days, I've been seeing the abandoned people of the abandoned immortal forest. It's rare to see people from the Crossing Immortal Domain, so I said a few more words. Don't take offense. Big Brother Fong, we still have to thank you for introducing the situation. If you didn't tell us, we really wouldn't know what was going on when Xiren said. Originally, they were also a little curious as to why Fong Qing was so warm and familiar. It was only at this moment that they completely understood. It was probably because she had stayed in the spirit-devouring mine for a while, but did not even have a familiar face, so she could not help but open her mouth when she met them. In short, it's bad luck to be caught in this spirit-devouring mine. Fong Qing secretly spat. We can't stay in this place for long. Big Brother Fong, what do you mean? Di Beichun's eyes revealed a trace of doubt. He vaguely felt that this place was very strange, but he could not feel where the problem was for the time being. The spirit-devouring stone is a kind of spirit stone that is very helpful in increasing spiritual power. The price is very high, but this spirit-devouring stone comes from the spirit-devouring mine. This spirit-devouring mine is different from the spirit-devouring stone. There are many benefits. This is a place of torture. If he wanted to dig out the spirit-devouring stone, he could only use his mental power to penetrate the ore. However, this spirit-devouring stone was very difficult to penetrate, so he could only see a little distance. Not only that, but the spirit-devouring ore will also continuously deplete one's spiritual energy. Fang Qing raised her eyebrows and subconsciously looked outside. You should have seen the cultivators who were beaten up earlier, right? They have stayed in the spirit-devouring mine for a long time, and their spirits are low. The possibility of digging up spirit-devouring stones again is very small. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression changed slightly. If the spirit-devouring ore will constantly eat away at a cultivator's spiritual power, then after a long time, will the cultivator's spiritual power be completely eaten away? Of course. Fang Qing nodded, a trace of disgust in her eyes. This is the reason why the spirit-devouring mine has always lacked people. Those fellows in the immortal realm don't treat us as humans at all. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others fell silent. They could roughly guess what would happen to the cultivators who had lost their mental strength. The so-called spirit-devouring stones were exchanged with these people's lives. Everyone, let's start mining first. If we can't complete the goal every day, we'll be punished. Chapter 62:11. According to Fang Qing's introduction, the location of the spirit-devouring stone was very scattered, so everyone could only use their mental strength to investigate. After finding the spirit-devouring stone with their mental strength, they used a shovel to dig it up. These shovels were also special. The spirit-devouring stone was very hard. Using other weapons to dig, it would be very slow. After using this shovel, although the speed was not fast, it was at least a little faster than other weapons. In the end, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others found a quieter place and began to try to dig. Everyone used their mental strength to sense the situation in the spirit-devouring stone. Their mental strength penetrated the spirit-devouring stone with difficulty to observe the existence of the spirit-devouring stone. In the process of searching, they also found that their mental strength seemed to be absorbed by something. Although it was very small, they could still detect it if they observed carefully. This spirit-devouring stone is too strange. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. She did not have the slightest good impression of the black spirit-devouring stone in front of her. This spirit-devouring stone can help cultivators improve their mental strength, but it is constantly eating away at the mental strength of the miners. Could it be that the spirit-devouring stone is absorbing it? Di Beichun frowned slightly. This kind of feeding and reverse feeding state really made people feel complicated. Big Brother Fong said that the impact of mining in a short period of time is not great. Let's complete today's goal first and see what this spirit-devouring stone looks like. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. Although they were in the spirit-devouring stone and not the real immortal domain, this place was already very close to the immortal domain. Why become stronger? I must find that Nalan Fu and say that he looks down on us. When my strength surpasses him, let's see if he can still say such words. When Xiren's face was filled with anger. Recalling the condescending look of Nalan Fu and the others made him very unhappy. Hearing this, a cold look flashed across everyone's eyes. As for these people, they would definitely meet again in the future. The distribution of these spirit-devouring stones is very scattered. Let's split up and search. Di Beichun looked around and said slowly. Everyone nodded. According to Fang Qing's introduction, most of the cultivators in the spirit-devouring mine were abandoned people of the abandoned immortal forest. Although they were filled with anger towards the steward, they did not have any hostility towards the people who also came to mine. Because they were all in the same boat, they were already miserable when they came here, so they naturally wouldn't make things difficult for each other. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but sigh. The abandoned people in the abandoned immortal forest didn't do anything wrong. They were only treated like this because they weren't from the immortal region. The situation in the crossing celestial region wasn't much better. It seemed like the celestial region was much crueler than the upper realm. At this moment, everyone completely understood why Shu Yu had returned to the upper realm after going to the crossing immortal region. In the upper realm, he was the #1 expert that everyone respected. However, after going to the crossing immortal domain, not only did he not have any advantage, he might even be captured to mine. Between the two, if it was anyone else, they would probably choose to stay in the crossing immortal region. However, Fang Qing's conversation with them was really too short. There were still many things that she couldn't ask. She could only wait for everyone to get familiar with each other before asking properly. After searching for a while, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes suddenly lit up because she found a spirit-devouring stone in the spirit-devouring mine underground. Chapter 62:12. After Xiao He saw that there was no one else around, she also revealed herself and began to help Bailey Hongzhuang search and mine. When the shovel dug into the spirit-devouring, or Bailey Hongzhuang also understood why the number of spirit-devouring ores that everyone found every day was so limited. It was because this spirit-devouring ore was simply too hard. Even with a special shovel, it was abnormally strenuous to dig it up. At this moment, all elemental powers seemed to have lost their effect. The only thing that was useful was pure power. The immortal region is indeed the immortal region. Even mining is not something that ordinary people can do. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips twitched. In any case, she was a cultivator of the heavenly moon realm, but she never thought that mining would be so difficult. If it was a cultivator with a weaker cultivation, the shovel might not even be able to pierce into the ground. Master, leave this kind of hard work to me. Xiao He took up the heavy responsibility in a timely manner. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Xiao He with a smile and said, "Then I'll leave it to you. I'll go look for other spirit-devouring ores." "No problem." Xiao He patted her chest and promised. Bailey Hongzhuang continued to search for the spirit-devouring ores in the surroundings. After searching, she found that the situation was just as Fang Qing had said. The spirit-devouring ores were too scattered. Even if she found one, it was only a single one. To find 3 spirit-devouring ores in a day, it did not seem like a lot, but it would take a lot of time. Fortunately, my mental power has always been paying attention to improving. The range of my observation is not very small. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed faintly. When she found the 3 spirit-devouring ores, the sky was already dark. Looking at the black fist-sized spirit-devouring ores in her hand, she could sense the energy fluctuations contained in them. This kind of energy fluctuation was different from the pure vitality in the spirit ores. It was a completely different kind of energy. Even if it was just a slight touch of mental power, Bailey Hongzhuang could feel that her mental power was being nourished. He had never experienced such a feeling before. It was no wonder that everyone wanted to obtain such a good item. "I'll look for other spirit-devouring stones." Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. This thing was indeed a treasure. If mining here would cause their spiritual power to continuously regress, then if they were to use the spirit-devouring stone to nourish their spiritual power while mining, would it be able to offset it? When this thought emerged, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't stop herself. She had to give it a try and see if it had such an effect. Not long after, Bewitching arrived at Bailey Hongzhuang's side. "Wife, how's your search going?" "I'm digging for the 4th spirit-devouring stone." Bailey Hongzhuang raised her head when she heard the voice. Her beautiful face was filled with a bright smile. She was indeed more beautiful than a flower. Looking at that smile, full of healing power, Bewitching's mood unconsciously became better. His wife was really optimistic. She could still maintain such a good mood in such an environment. It was really admirable. "How's your harvest?" Bewitching smiled faintly. "I found 5 spirit-devouring stones." Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. "You're very fast." It's not easy to find these spirit-devouring stones. It took me so much time to find the fourth one. I was lucky to find 2 spirit-devouring stones together. Chapter 62:13. Soon, Imo, Yunjue, and the others returned one after another. Shangguan Yingying had a bitter face. This spirit-devouring mine is too complicated. I've only dug out 2 spirit-devouring stones after searching for so long. It's okay. I have an extra one here for you. Imo Yunjue took out a spirit-devouring stone and handed it to Shangguan Yingying. Seeing this, Shangguan Yingying took the spirit-devouring stone and said in shame, "I've dragged you guys down. You might just be unlucky. The place you found today has fewer spirit-devouring stones." Imo Yunjue's voice was as emotionless as ever, but the comfort in his words washed away the chill and revealed a trace of warmth. Shangguan Yingying looked at Imo Yunjue with a gentle gaze. She knew that Imo Yunjue was actually cold on the surface, but not cold on the heart. "It's getting late. Let's go back," Bailey Hongzhuang said. She noticed that some people had already dug out the spirit-devouring stone and returned. They wanted to meet Fong Qing earlier so that they could get more information from him. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others walked out of the mine, Fong Qing was already waiting for them. After looking at the harvest of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, Fong Qing heaved a sigh of relief. She immediately collected everyone's basket and handed it to Li Wei. However, when Fong Qing handed the spirit-devouring stone to Li Wei, Bailey Hongzhuang noticed that Fong Qing had secretly added an extra spirit-devouring stone. Li Wei quietly accepted the spirit-devouring stone and smiled at Fong Qing. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood. No wonder Li Wei's attitude towards Fong Qing was different from the others. It turned out that there was such a relationship between them. Sure enough, no matter when, buying people's hearts was an important method. Fong Qing walked over from Li Wei's side with a smile on her face. Then, she said to everyone, "Follow me. I'll bring you to the place where you'll stay tonight." Hearing this, everyone followed behind Fong Qing and walked inside. "You guys did well today. You completed the mission on the first day." Many people don't understand the situation at all when they come here for the first time, or they don't care about it at all, so they're always beaten very badly. A trace of gloom flashed across Fong Qing's eyes, as if she had recalled some unpleasant memories. "This is all thanks to Brother Fong's advice," said Bewitching. "Usually, I don't bother to say much when I meet other people. It's just that it's rare to meet someone from the crossing celestial domain. We're all in the same boat, so I said a few words. In short, since you're already here, you should be mentally prepared. Unless you can leave this place, you will end up like those people sooner or later." A trace of sadness appeared on Fong Qing's face. Even though Li Wei and the others usually treated him well, he knew very well that it was just a relationship of use. Other than not being punished like the others, there was nothing he could do to change the situation. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other and could hear the helplessness in Fong Qing's words. "Big Brother Fong, have you heard of a person called Shuyu?" Bailey Hongzhuang saw that Fong Qing seemed to have a lot of things that no one could say, so she asked her own question. "How do you know Shuyu?" Fong Qing was a little surprised. She put away her original disappointment, and a thick curiosity appeared on her face. Everyone's eyes lit up. It seemed that they had not asked the wrong person. Fong Qing really knew Shuyu. "To be honest, we came from the same place as Senior Shuyu, so we've heard some things about him." Chapter 62:14. Looking at the nervousness and curiosity on Fong Qing's face, Bewitching nodded. He went back. Fong Qing's expression suddenly became extremely complicated. In the end, there was a hint of relief. That guy is not only bold, but also very lucky. He actually succeeded in going back. "Brother Fong, can you tell us about the situation at that time?" Bailey Hongzhuang asked. "Since he knows Shuyu, didn't he tell you?" Fong Qing was a little puzzled. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly. "Although we know Senior Shuyu, we don't know him very well. We only heard some of his deeds." "I see." Fong Qing understood. Back then, we were all in the crossing immortal domain. Actually, after we arrived at the crossing immortal domain, as long as we could successfully ascend, we could become a true immortal. However, the immortal domain closed the entrance to the crossing immortal domain, so we stayed in the crossing immortal domain. During that time, all of us were thinking about how to successfully reach the immortal domain because the cultivation resources in the crossing immortal domain were not enough, and there was a mysterious force suppressing us. Perhaps it was because one had to pay a certain price to become an immortal, and this price also had a time limit. If one did not succeed in the stipulated time, their cultivation would regress. Because of this pressure, all of us were thinking of ways. However, other than the entrance, it was too difficult to reach the immortal domain from the crossing immortal domain. Many cultivators tried to rush over directly, but in the end, they all lost their lives. At that time, we were all in despair. Shui was a very smart person. After he realized that he could not successfully ascend, he thought about how to go back. I remember that he spent a lot of time researching how to go back. In the end, one day, he broke through the manager's guard and disappeared. Fong Qing's gaze was distant. Her thoughts had returned to the painful and confused memories of the past. At that time, was Senior Shu Yu the only one who broke through? Mo Yunju asked. They had only seen Shu Yu once, but they did not expect such a thing to happen. At that time, there were 3 other people who broke through with Shu Yu. However, the 3 of them were not as lucky as Shu Yu. The 3 of them were caught and died, while Shu Yu disappeared. From then on, everyone gave up on the idea of going back. We all subconsciously believed that Shu Yu was already dead, but we didn't expect that he actually succeeded. The corners of Fong Qing's lips curled up into a smile. If I had known earlier, I would have given it a try. Unlike now, I don't even have the chance to give it a try. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other. Under such circumstances, they could not comfort Fong Qing. The spirit devouring mind was indeed a place that made people despair. I'm afraid that Shu Yu will never come back to the crossing immortal domain again. However, he shouldn't have done that. He knew that the crossing immortal domain is such a place, yet he didn't tell the junior about it. Fong Qing sighed faintly and patted Bewitching and Mo Yunju's shoulders. Those who can come to the crossing immortal domain are all heaven's favored ones from their previous planes. I thought that I would have a better future after I ascended. Who would have thought that I would end up in such a situation? If I had known earlier, I would have stayed there peacefully. At least I would have lived a comfortable life. Big Brother Fong, haven't you ever thought of running away? Suddenly, Bewitching's voice rang out. Chapter 62:15. Bewitching, you can't say such words in front of others. If you're not careful, you might lose your life, Fong Qing said nervously. Bewitching's lips curled up slightly. Brother Fong, we believe in you. Hearing this, Fong Qing was slightly stunned. Then, she smiled in relief, and her expression softened. I was wondering why I felt a sense of familiarity when I saw you guys. It seems that we really hit it off. Looking at Fong Qing's appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang keenly noticed that the former's gaze seemed to have changed. If there was still a trace of wariness in the trust before, then this trace of wariness gradually dissipated. It's very difficult to leave this place. I advise you not to have this idea for the time being. The spirit-devouring mind is not far from the immortal realm. With our situation, it's impossible to enter the immortal realm. The cultivators of the immortal realm all have their own identity cards. If they don't have an identity card, even if they pretend to be in, they will be discovered. At that time, their fate will be even worse. Other than that, the other side is the abandoned immortal forest. If we want to run, the only path is the abandoned immortal forest. However, we are not familiar with the abandoned immortal forest at all, and we don't know the situation inside. It's said that the cultivators in the abandoned immortal forest are very repulsive to the cultivators outside. Even if we go to the abandoned immortal forest, our days won't be easy. We can only live in that abandoned place for the rest of our lives. Fong Qing's expression was gloomy, and there was a hint of bitterness in his voice. I really didn't expect that I would end up in such a situation. Fate is really unpredictable. Everyone fell silent. In fact, they had always wanted to enter the immortal realm one day. However, it was so difficult to enter the immortal realm. It was also very difficult for them to complete it. You guys must be tired from digging for the whole day. Don't think too much. Since you're already here, stay here first. There won't be any problems for a short period of time. Fang Qing left after leaving this sentence. That thoughtful look revealed his mood. Clearly, the news of Shu Yu's successful return had stimulated him quite a bit. Inside the house, the living environment was obviously extremely poor. Everyone shared a room. However, after their observation, they found that sharing a room was already very good treatment. The living environment of the others were even worse than theirs. Thinking about it, this was also what Fang Qing had fought for them. Speaking of which, Fang Qing's friendliness came out of nowhere, but no one doubted it. Some malice came for no reason, and sometimes some kindness came for no reason. In the next few days, they also understood why Fang Qing was so kind to them. Chapter 62:16. Hearing Zhongli Mu's words, the expressions of Granny Hua and the others changed slightly, and a complicated look flashed across their eyes. Seeing the change in everyone's expression, Xiao Xuanzi became even more anxious. Why aren't you saying anything? Where's that place? That's the direction of the immortal domain, Zhongli Mu said. Xiao Xuanzi was slightly stunned. With the current situation of his master and the others, it was impossible for them to take the initiative to go to the immortal domain. Therefore, there was only one reason why they left, and that was that they must have been captured. It seems that Hong Zhuang and the others might have been captured to mine. Granny Hua sighed. Recently, there have been people coming to capture people of mine. I'm afraid that this time, they just happened to encounter it. Granny Hua, what should we do now? Zhongli Mu's face revealed a worried expression. During this period of time, they had been paying attention to this point, but they did not expect that they would really encounter it. They should be in the spirit-devouring mine now, but you don't have to worry too much. Bewitching and the others are all smart people. Even if they are captured, they won't suffer a big loss. Yu Hong was relatively calm. Although the cultivation of Bewitching and the others was still very far away from the cultivators of the immortal domain, they were all very smart. In a situation where they could not win, they would not fight head-on. In comparison, Zhongli Mu was more worrying in this aspect. This kid was too simple and did not understand the twists and turns of the outside world. Then we'll go and save them now? Xiao Xuanzi hurriedly said. He felt a wave of regret in his heart. If only he did not go to find Xiao Hua today. Granny Hua thought for a moment, but before she could speak, Zhongli Xiaoran's voice rang out. Since they were captured, it's also fate. There's no need to worry for the time being. Let's see if they can come back on their own. Hearing this, Zhongli Mu's expression changed, and he asked anxiously, Grandpa, didn't you say that the situation in the spirit-devouring mine is very dangerous? Now that Big Brother D and the others have been captured, how can we sit back and do nothing? That old man Zhongli is right. We've been giving pointers to these kids for a while now. Although they went out earlier than we expected, it doesn't mean that we can't deal with it. Let's wait for the time being. Wishu Kong said faintly. Old woman, the abilities you've given to Hong Zhuang these days aren't bad either. What do you think? Granny Hua raised her eyebrows, and a trace of pride appeared in her eyes. The disciple that I have taught is naturally not bad. It's just that the time I have taught him is still a little short. Since that's the case, let's take a look at the adaptability of these little fellows. Seeing that the seniors had no intention of making a move, Zhongli Mu and Xiao Xuanzi couldn't help but look at each other. This situation was completely different from what they had imagined. Xiao Xuanzi's heart was filled with gloominess, but he couldn't say anything in front of these seniors. His heart immediately became even more gloomy. After the four seniors left, Xiao Xuanzi could not help but ask, Zhongli Mu, will my master and the others be in danger? I don't know either. Zhongli Mu frowned. I heard that the spirit-devouring mine is an extremely dangerous place. Previously, many cultivators in the abandoned immortal forest lost their lives there. That's why everyone hates the spirit-devouring mine to the bone. As soon as he said that, Xiao Xuanzi immediately became even more nervous. Then this can't go on. I have to go find them. Chapter 62:17. Zhong Limu felt a little helpless. The reason why he told his grandfather and the rest about this was so that they could help. He did not expect his grandfather and the rest to be so calm, as if they did not care about this at all. Then are we just going to wait here? Xiao Xuanzi was annoyed. His cultivation had indeed increased recently, but compared to the cultivators in the immortal region, the gap was still too big. Even his master was taken away. What more him? Xiao Xuanzi, don't worry. We can go take a look around the spirit-devouring mine, but we must be careful not to be caught by others. Zhong Limu's eyes flashed with confidence. I believe in my grandfather and the rest's foresight. The reason why they are not worried is not because they don't care, but because they believe in Big Brother D and the rest's ability. There was a fundamental difference between the two. He believed that since Grandma Hua and the rest were so sure, then everyone would definitely be able to return safely. All right then, spirit-devouring mine. The next morning, everyone was awakened by the loud sound of a gong. Everyone, get up and go mining. If you don't get up now, you'll have to taste my whip. Hurry up. If you continue to dawdle, I'll whip you to death. The group of cultivators quickly walked out of the house under the manager's roar. No one dared to slow down, because once they slowed down, they could be whipped at any time. The whip did not taste good. A casual whip could split a person's skin and flesh. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest stood out among the group of skinny miners. Not only did they have to work hard every day to mine, but they also had to eat poorly. Fortunately, because they had to prepare good food for the seniors, they brought a lot of good food with them. Speaking of which, it was strange. They thought that the people here would take their Chinquan bags immediately, but they realized that Li Wei and the rest did not have that thought at all. However, they later understood that the cultivators in the abandoned immortal forest were just poor people in the eyes of Li Wei and the rest. They did not have anything useful at all. When they first came to the spirit-devouring mine, they were still interested in checking the Chinquan bags. After realizing that there was nothing useful, they did not bother about it anymore. It was just a waste of time. Holding the bamboo basket and shovel, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest walked into the mine once again. Compared to yesterday's confusion, everyone seemed much more familiar today. The speed of finding the spirit-devouring stone was very slow, but everyone was in good condition. Bailey Hongzhuang spent more than half a day to find 3 spirit-devouring stones. As for the rest of the time, she began to look for her own devouring spirit stone. This thing was so precious. It was said that every piece of devouring spirit stone was an extremely precious item in the immortal domain. This price was also completely explosive. Now that they were in the mine, they naturally prepared some for themselves. Although the process of searching would wear and tear her spiritual power to a certain extent, Bailey Hongzhuang also discovered that the continuous searching could also improve her spiritual power to a certain extent. This situation was similar to the improvement of mental strength. There was a certain effect, but the mental strength consumed by the spirit devouring or was more than the mental strength gained. As time went on, everyone's mental strength would only get worse and worse. Chapter 62:18. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. Once this thought appeared in her mind, it could no longer dissipate. Di Beichen and the others were also working hard to find the spirit-devouring stone. After last night's research, the spirit-devouring stone did indeed have a lot of benefits. There were many uses for mental strength. Although they usually didn't pay much attention to it, the use of mental strength was everywhere, whether it was in a fight or other situations. Cultivators could improve their cultivation through cultivation, but it was very difficult to improve their mental strength. It was because of this that the cultivators in the immortal domain needed the spirit-devouring stone so much. After staying in the spirit-devouring stone for a few days, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also obtained some spirit-devouring stones. Although Li Wei and the others didn't care about what was in their Qinquan bag, they were very careful about the spirit-devouring stone. Every day, after handing over the spirit-devouring stone, everyone had to walk past a device. This device would check if the cultivator had hidden any spirit-devouring stones. In these few days, they had seen cultivators who were caught. Naturally, they were beaten up and even lost their lives. Fortunately, everyone put the spirit-devouring stone into the chaos ring, which allowed them to avoid being checked. At night, after Shangwan Ying absorbed the energy of the spirit-devouring stone, she found that her mental strength had increased a little compared to before. Immediately, a happy expression appeared on her face. Fortunately, we have the chaos ring. Otherwise, without the spirit-devouring stone, our situation would have gotten worse. Mo Yunjua nodded. The spirit-devouring stone is indeed a good thing. No wonder the mining continues, even though we have to pay such a high price. It's a pity that the place where the ores are located is too scattered. It would be great if we could dig a hole where the ores are gathered together. Shangwan Ying started to daydream. The effect of these spirit-devouring stones was too good. It was a pity that they could only harvest 4 or 5 spirit-devouring stones in a day. Apart from the portion they needed to hand over, there was not much left. There's no other way. Bailey Hongzhuang spread her hands. This is the situation with the spirit-devouring stone. However, I feel that if our mental strength becomes stronger, the range of our detection will be wider, and the speed of our search will be faster. That's right. I just need some time. Bewitching smiled faintly. The life of mining in the eyes of others was not very difficult for them. When Xiren's expression was relaxed, and the corners of his lips curled into a smile like a spring breeze. Previously, I thought that being caught here was a very tragic thing, but now I feel that it's not so bad. Even though this was the outskirts of the immortal domain, the elemental energy in the air and the laws of heaven and earth were stronger than in the abandoned immortal forest. Even though we don't have as much time to cultivate as before, the speed of our improvement hasn't slowed down by much. Coupled with the improvement of our mental strength, I think it's pretty good. Following Xiren's words, everyone smiled and nodded. This was also what they were thinking. Originally, after being captured, they were thinking about how to leave this place as soon as possible. But now, they weren't in a hurry to go back. The next day, when Bewitching and the others started mining again, they unexpectedly saw 2 figures. Bewitching, from now on, the 2 of them will follow you to mine. Fang Qing patted Bewitching's shoulder and said with a smile. Chapter 62:19. I don't have to worry about you. Fang Qing's expression was relaxed. He thought that Bewitching and the others would fall into deep despair after coming here. After all, from a proud son of heaven to a miner, such a psychological gap was definitely not something that ordinary people could accept. However, the performance of Bewitching and the others completely exceeded his expectations. They didn't seem to feel that this job was hard at all, nor did they complain too much. They just completed the task on time every day. It was precisely because of their emotions that Fang Qing felt that his mood had become a little more cheerful. Not to mention him, even Li Wei's attitude towards Bewitching and the others was not as harsh as his attitude towards the others. It was not for anything else, but because these people handed over the spirit-devouring stones that they should hand over every day. After Fang Qing left, Bewitching let the 2 newcomers take the bamboo basket and shovel before walking into the mine together. Because their performance during this period of time had been good, the 3rd mine had become their exclusive mine. It was not until they reached the depths of the mine that Bewitching said, "Zhongli Mu, Xiao Xuanzi, why are you guys here too? Didn't we ask Xiao He and Xiao Ba to tell you guys before? We don't have any problems here, don't worry." Bailey Hongzhuang also frowned. It was fine if it was Xiao Xuanzi, but Zhongli Mu was the treasure of Senior Zhongli and the others. Now that he had come to the spirit-devouring mine, if Senior Zhongli knew about it, he would be very angry. "We know." Xiao Xuanzi nodded. "I've always wanted to meet up with you guys." Coincidentally, Zhongli Mu also said that he was coming, so we came together. Although it was not a good thing to come to the spirit-devouring mine, he just wanted to be with everyone, even if it was hard work here. Zhongli Mu, have you told Senior Zhongli and the others about you coming here? Di Beichun asked with concern. Zhongli Mu shook his head slightly, a hearty smile on his face. Don't worry, my grandfather and the others won't worry. Grandfather and the others said earlier that they believe that you definitely have the ability to leave the spirit-devouring mine. What does it matter if I come to find you? When the time comes, we'll leave together. Moreover, I'm also a little curious about this spirit-devouring mine. I don't know what kind of place it is, so I just happened to come and see it. Seeing Zhongli Mu's expression, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but look at each other. But this kind of character of T. You didn't go find Xiao Hua? Hearing this, Xiao Xuanzi said with a serious face. Usually, I can chase after my wife, but at this time, master is more important. Chapter 62:20. In the abandoned, immortal forest, Granny Hua looked at the spirit-devouring mine not far away with a playful smile on her face. Old man Zhongli, didn't you say that there's nothing to worry about? Why are you here today? Huishukong and Yu Hong couldn't help but chuckle. Ever since Di Beichun and the rest were taken away, they couldn't help but worry even though they believed that Beichun and the rest could handle everything. After all, these little guys had been with them for so long and were their disciples. They had feelings for them. Most importantly, without these little guys around, they had to eat the same food as before. It was a helpless feeling. Therefore, they secretly came to the spirit-devouring mine to find out more about Beichun and the rest. They thought that they were the only ones who came, but who would have thought that they would find each other? At that time, Yu Hong and Huishukong looked at each other. After a short moment of shock, the three of them couldn't help but chuckle. It seemed that the three of them came here with the same idea. At that time, Zhongli Xiao Ran noticed that the three of them came back sneakily and even mocked them. Now that Mua had gone to the spirit-devouring mine, Zhongli Xiao Ran couldn't sit still anymore. I'm here to see what you guys are looking at all the time, Zhongli Xiao Ran said casually. Hearing that, Huishukong and the rest couldn't help but laugh. They didn't believe him at all. Old man Zhongli, what's the point of putting on airs every day? If you're worried about Mu'er, just tell us. We won't laugh at you. Yu Hong raised his eyebrows and said. Zhongli Xiao Ran glanced at him indifferently. I'm just wondering when this little brat will come back. Without him, there's no one to cook. Once he said that, Hua, and the rest were stunned. They had neglected this problem. After Hong Zhuang and the rest left, although Mu'er's cooking skills were not as good as Hong Zhuang's, at least there was someone to cook for them. Now that Mu'er was gone, wouldn't it mean that only the four of them were left to stare at each other? Judging from the situation, we should let them come back as soon as possible, Huishukong said seriously. Granny Huan nodded slightly. That's right. Let's see what kind of method these little fellows will find to come back. If they come back too late, this old lady will be starved to death. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others did not know that the four seniors were so worried about them. They only thought that the four seniors were extremely calm and confident in them. They were not worried that they would not be able to leave this place. Therefore, they were not in a hurry to leave at all. After all, they had nothing to lose by staying here. On the contrary, they could even increase their spiritual power. It cannot be better. On this day, Fang Qing was invited into the house by everyone. Looking at the table full of delicious food, Fang Qing could not help but be stunned. Her eyes flashed with deep surprise. Where did you get so much food? Everyone knew how bad the spirit-devouring or's food was every day. He had already forgotten how long it had been since he last saw such a feast. Brother Fang, we put some food in our Cosmos bags earlier. We were lucky that it was not confiscated, so... When Xiren smiled brightly, Fang Qing immediately understood. I was wondering why you guys look so good. It turns out that you guys live so freely every day. Chapter 62:21. All of this is thanks to Brother Fong's care, so we wanted to come and show our filial piety to you today. Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. Fong Qing did not stand on ceremony and sat in front of the table. Actually, I didn't help you much. You're all smart people. Even if I'm not here, I believe you'll be able to do well. On the contrary, ever since you guys appeared, I feel that I have more to look forward to. Fong Qing laughed brightly. Come, Brother Fong, let me toast you with this glass of wine. Haha, let's drink together. After 3 rounds of wine, everyone was slightly tipsy. Their faces were slightly red, but everyone's faces were brimming with smiles. Fong Qing then said slowly, I know that you guys should have your own way to absorb the power of the spirit-devouring stone, which is why you can maintain your current state. As soon as these words were said, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others immediately sobered up. They were not surprised by this. Even though they usually paid attention to disguising themselves, they understood that after a long time, they would not be able to disguise themselves even if they wanted to. Noticing the change in everyone's expressions, Fong Qing smiled and said, You don't have to be nervous. I don't have any ill intentions towards you. I just want to remind you that although the spirit-devouring stone can help us offset it, your methods are also very clever and have not been discovered by the steward. However, as time passes, it is inevitable that there will be a day when we will be exposed. Therefore, it is best to think of a way to leave this place. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other. It seemed that Fong Qing had been thinking about how to leave the spirit-devouring mine. Initially, when they heard Fong Qing's words, they were still a little worried. However, at this moment, they also understood that Fong Qing really did not treat them as outsiders. In other words, Fong Qing was actually here to find allies. If they wanted to leave this place by relying on their own strength, it would be too difficult. They would definitely need to find allies for this plan to work. Brother Fong, have you found a feasible way recently? Di Beichun said slowly. Fong Qing looked carefully at Di Beichun and the others and said, Are you trustworthy? Brother Fong, since you are telling us this, doesn't that mean you believe us? Di Beichun smiled. His wise eyes seemed to be able to see through everything. Fong Qing looked at Di Beichun calmly and seriously. The atmosphere seemed to freeze at this moment. After a while, Fong Qing suddenly smiled and nodded. That's right, I believe you. Speaking of which, it's quite interesting. When I met you guys, I hit it off very well. I always feel that you guys are the most trustworthy people. Fong Qing's honest expression was mixed with a hint of complexity. I don't know why, but I always feel that you guys seem to have your own confidence and are not afraid of the situation here at all. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were also silent. Indeed, the situation of the spirit devouring was not that bad for them. From the beginning to the end, they had treated this place as a kind of experience, as a way to understand the immortal realm more. However, Fong Qing's thoughts were completely different from theirs. This was a place filled with despair. If he stayed here, he could lose his life at any time. Therefore, he was very anxious and only hoped to leave this place as soon as possible. Facing such a Fong Qing, they could not help but feel a little moved. Even if it was only because of the care they had taken these days, they could not turn a blind eye to it. Chapter 62:22. Facing Fong Qing's sincere and serious look, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could not turn a blind eye to it. If Fong Qing had schemed against them during this process, they could still ignore it. However, from the beginning to the end, Fong Qing had always treated them as trustworthy people and took care of them. She had not even said a word for so many days. Until today, he did not know if it was because he was drunk or because he had not drunk for a long time that he had let down all his defenses. Just from his conflicted look, it could be seen that Fong Qing had been very conflicted about this matter during this period of time. It was only today that she made up her mind. Brother Fong, since you came to us for help, do you already have a countermeasure in mind? There was a hint of seriousness in Di Beichun's eyes. They had not been in the spirit-devouring mine for a long time, so there were many things that they did not know enough about. At least, according to the situation they had learned so far, the entire spirit-devouring mine could be said to be heavily guarded. No matter which way they went, it would be very difficult to escape. The abandoned people in the abandoned immortal forest tried their best to leave almost every day. Even though they had only been here for a short period of time, they had already seen teams escape. However, the result was not good. They were directly caught by Li Wei and the others. Needless to say, the outcome was unavoidable. They were even punished. If it were not for the fact that they still needed to mine, they would have lost their lives. Therefore, without sufficient preparation, they absolutely could not rashly escape. Otherwise, perhaps they would be able to leave this place unscathed, but Fong Qing would be in trouble. I did make some preparations. Fong Qing nodded, her expression a little more solemn. During this period of time, I have seriously understood the situation here. Every once in a while, Li Wei and the others needed to report the recent situation of the spirit-devouring mine to their leader. This day was equivalent to their summary and settlement day. At this time, the stewards would leave. Almost every day on this day, they would drink to their heart's content and be in a good mood. Of course, when they leave, they will arrange for more people to guard the spirit-devouring mine to prevent any problems from happening when they're not around, Fong Qing said again. Mo Yunjue's eyes turned solemn. Are you planning to take advantage of this day to escape? Fong Qing nodded slightly. That's right. Today is a very relaxing day for Li Wei and the other stewards. Although they have arranged for many people to keep watch, after my observation during this period of time, I discovered that there is actually a blind spot. Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard this. It seemed that Fong Qing had indeed spent a lot of effort to successfully leave this place during this period of time. Ordinary people would be exhausted if they could complete their daily tasks here. At this time, he had to take advantage of the time to observe if there was any way to leave this place. He would have to spend a lot of energy. I can take you to the mine tomorrow, but you must be careful not to be discovered by others. Fong Qing's eyes were filled with nervousness and worry. This is the only feasible method so far. If it is discovered, it will be even more difficult to leave. Everyone nodded. Big Brother Fong, don't worry. We understand. Brother Fong, where do you plan to go after leaving the spirit-devouring mine? Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly asked. Earlier, Fong Qing had already told them that if they didn't have an identity token, they would be discovered even if they entered the celestial domain, and it was no different from a dead end. Chapter 62-23. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's question, Fong Qing hesitated for a moment. Her eyes gradually became firm, and there was a resolute confidence in her. I plan to go to the chaotic immortal realm. The chaotic immortal realm? Bailey Hongzhuang was shocked. She had never heard of such a place in the chaotic immortal realm. Fong Qing nodded slightly. The chaotic immortal realm is different from the crossing immortal realm. The crossing immortal realm is a normal place for cultivators to ascend. If the people of the immortal realm did not change the rules of the crossing immortal realm, cultivators who ascend to the crossing immortal realm will be able to enter the immortal realm as long as they pass the test. The realm of chaotic immortal was another place where one could ascend to immortality in an abnormal way. There were no rules there, and only strength was respected. However, the chaotic immortal realm is rich in cultivation resources. Therefore, many cultivators from the immortal realm would go there to plunder cultivation resources. Most importantly, the chaotic immortal realm does not care where the cultivators come from. As long as they can obtain the immortal realm's cultivator identity card and insert their own information, they can become a real cultivator of the immortal realm. Therefore, I want to give it a try. His dark and deep eyes were filled with an indomitable determination. Back then, I struggled for so long before I finally arrived at the crossing immortal region. I'm only a step away from the immortal region. If I don't give it a try, I really won't be satisfied. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others understood. They didn't know that there was a place like the chaotic immortal domain here. As expected, there was always a way to change the situation. As long as Fong Qing could make a name for himself in the chaotic immortal realm, he could still become a cultivator of the immortal realm. If they were in Fong Qing's shoes, they would probably do the same. I understand. Brother Fong, we will help you, Di Beichen said seriously. Staying in a place like the spirit-devouring mine for a long time was just a waste of time. Only in a place like the chaotic immortal realm could cultivators grow faster. He had a feeling that Fong Qing could make a name for himself in the chaotic immortal realm. Fong Qing's eyes shone when he saw Di Beichen and the other's serious expressions. In the cave, he did not say anything. Brother Fong, how long until the next gathering? Mo Yunju asked. 7 days. Mo Yunju nodded slightly. We don't know enough about the situation here. I suggest that we don't take action immediately after 7 days. Let's observe for a while. After we confirm that this path is feasible, we will wait for a month. His handsome and cold face was expressionless as usual. Only his eyes, which were as deep as a black hole, flickered with a calm light. Fong Qing was a mortal realm. It could not guarantee immortal realms cultivators. Immortal realm was immortal realm. Immortal realm was immortal realms was immortal realm was immortal realm was immortal realm. To immortals, Fong immortals immortal. Immortal immortal realm. Immortal immortal. Even though he was doing quite well in the spirit-devouring mine. Only he knew how desperate he was under such circumstances. However, Fong Qing also understood that the reason why Mo Yunjua did this was to be foolproof. There really couldn't be any mistakes in this matter. Chapter 62-24. Anyway, we've already waited for so long. What's the harm in waiting for another month? Fong Qing smiled. Let's take advantage of the opportunity in 7 days to understand the situation. Everyone nodded. They already had some plans in their minds. In the next few days, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others continued to mine as usual. They did not show any difference. Li Wei was very assured of Fong Qing. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could hand over the spirit-devouring stones on time every day, he did not make things difficult for them. After all, every new batch of cultivators was in a good state when they were mining. It was just that as time passed, they would get worse and worse. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were mining hard every day. They did not have much time left in the spirit-devouring mine. It was best to take advantage of this time to accumulate more spirit-devouring stones. Once they returned to the abandoned immortal forest, they would not be able to obtain such a treasure in a short period of time. On this day, Fong Qing brought Bailey Hongzhuang and the others to an abandoned mine. This mine is very old. It was once a mine with a high probability of producing spirit-devouring stones. However, as the number of spirit-devouring stones decreased, everyone gave up on this mine and turned to other mines. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at the mine in front of them. The range of this mine was indeed not small. It was undoubtedly deeper than the mine they were digging now. It could be seen that the scene here must have been very lively back then. Then are there no spirit-devouring stones in this mine now? Shangguan Yingying asked curiously. There are still some, but it's harder to find. Moreover, it's more scattered. The same amount of energy will be gained here. It's not worth it. So we gave up. Fong Qing explained with a smile. So that's how it is. Shangguan Yingying understood and sighed. The spirit-devouring stone is really a good treasure. If it wasn't too difficult to find, I would really be willing to search here for a while. Even though mining every day consumed a lot of her spiritual power, under the nourishment of the spirit-devouring stone, her spiritual power actually increased to a certain extent. Don't look at this little increase. She could keenly sense many changes. Even during a battle, she was able to quickly discover the opponent's flaws. If he continued to stay here, even if he spent more time, his mental power would continue to grow. Because of me, your plan was disrupted. Fong Qing was a little apologetic. He understood that with the condition of Di Beichen and the others, it would not affect them to stay here for a little longer. It was just that he really could not stay any longer. Big Brother Fong. Yingying only mentioned it casually. Don't take it to heart. Zyron waved his hand. If we stay here for too long, it will inevitably arouse the suspicions of those in charge. 1 month is enough. That's right. If I don't go back now, my grandfather and the others will starve. Zhong Limu sighed. For as long as he could remember, the task of cooking had always been given to him. It wasn't until Hong Zhuang came that the task fell on Hong Zhuang. Now that he wasn't even by his side, it was really hard to imagine what grandfather and the others would eat every day. Looking at Zhong Limu's simple appearance, Bailey Hong Zhuang and the others couldn't help but feel that it was a little funny. Chapter 62-25. Zhongli Mu, don't worry. Before you were born, how did Senior Zhongli and the others survive? Shang Waning raised her eyebrows and asked. Hearing this, Zhongli Mu was slightly stunned. Ever since he could remember, he had always been the one cooking. He had never thought about this question. That makes sense. Then I don't have to worry. Zhongli Mu said in surprise. Of course. Shang Waning nodded. Senior Zhongli and the others are very powerful. This kind of small matter is not a problem for them. You guys don't know, but Zhongli Mu spent a lot of time preparing food before he left. Xiao Xuanzi suddenly interrupted. As soon as he said this, Bailey Hong Zhuang and the others looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh. This kid was really amazing. From the looks of it, he must have calculated the days to prepare things. Zhongli Mu scratched his head in embarrassment. I've never been far away, so no need to explain. We all understand. Fong Qing listened to everyone's conversation, and a complicated look flashed across his eyes. But more importantly, he felt relieved. In fact, he always knew that Beichin and the others had their own trump cards, but he didn't know what this trump card was. However, when he thought about how Zhongli Mu and Xiao Xuanzi actually came to the spirit-devouring mind-to-mind just because they were worried about their situation, he was especially impressed. This kind of place that was completely like hell in the eyes of others, they actually didn't put it in their eyes at all. Just from their indifferent and casual appearance, these guys were completely here to play and earn a sum of spirit-devouring stones. At this moment, listening to Zhongli Mu's words, he was even more certain that his judgment was not wrong. This situation was definitely like this. We'll try to complete the mission for the day before the steward and the others leave. Then, while everyone is eating, we'll pretend to return to our residence and sneak here. Fong Qing slowly explained his plan. Big Brother Fong, no one comes to this abandoned mine, but we can't get out if we stay here. Shang Waning was a little puzzled. This mine actually existed in a row with the other mines. If they wanted to get out of here, they would definitely appear in front of others. It was completely useless. I've been preparing for this plan for a long time. Fong Qing smiled faintly. Previously, I specially studied these mines. Because the probability of spirit-devouring stones appearing in this mine was very high, it was also dug the deepest. Therefore, this is the closest mine to the spirit-devouring mine. There are guards all around the spirit-devouring mine. It's impossible to leave from any other place. We'll definitely be discovered. The only way is to leave through the mine without anyone noticing. As soon as he said this, everyone looked at each other, and an unbelievable thought appeared in their minds. Big Brother Fong, you didn't dig through this mine, did you? Bailey Hong Zhuang was speechless. They had already experienced how difficult it was to dig out the spirit-devouring Oregon. Even if this mine was the closest to the outside, the distance would still be astonishing. If Fong Qing dug through this mine, how big of a project would it be? Chapter 62-26. Hearing Fong Qing's affirmative answer, everyone could not help but open their mouths wide. Their faces were filled with shock. Fong Qing was actually able to dig through such a long mine by herself. How much time and effort would it take? No wonder I can't see you usually. I finally understand now. Xiao Xuanzi's face was full of emotion. Fong Qing probably sneaked here to mine after completing her daily mission. Fong Qing spread her hands helplessly. This is the most suitable method that I've found after staying here for so long. The guards here are very strong. With our strength, we're no match for them. Although this method is very stupid, it's more feasible to implement. Everyone nodded. This was indeed the truth. An abandoned mine. Usually, no one would pay attention to this place. I don't know what method you used to successfully bring the spirit-devouring stones out. When I was digging the tunnel here, I would sometimes harvest some spirit-devouring stones, so I used these spirit-devouring stones. Feng Qing did not hide it. Even if it was an abandoned mine, under his continuous digging, there would naturally be a certain amount of spirit-devouring stones. If he did not have these spirit-devouring stones, he would not have been able to hold on until today. I see. Bailey Hongzhuang understood. She originally thought that Feng Qing also had some kind of treasure that could avoid inspection. Otherwise, Feng Qing would not have such spirit after staying here for such a long time, even if she was slightly better than the others. So this was his method. Let's go and see the farthest place we can reach. Let's confirm if we can really dig through it when we leave. Bewitching looked ahead and said. Everyone followed behind Feng Qing and slowly walked forward. Although this was a mine, it was very spacious. However, when everyone reached the deepest part of the mine, Feng Qing lifted the black stone slab on the ground. A tunnel that only one person could pass through appeared in their line of sight. Feng Qing was the first to enter the tunnel. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others followed suit. Finally, Xiao Xuanzi moved the stone slab over to cover the entrance of the cave. The entire pit was not big. Because there was only one person, Feng Qing only needed to dig it until it allowed one person to pass through. As they walked forward, everyone finally understood how long Feng Qing had been digging here. Just thinking about it, they could tell how many nights Feng Qing had stayed here. From this, it could be seen how strong his desire to leave this place was. Finally, after walking for an unknown amount of time, Feng Qing's footsteps stopped. It's here. Bewitching used his mental power to check the situation and nodded. Not bad. We're already very close to the outside. Bewitching sensed the aura outside after his spiritual power passed through a certain range of the spirit-devouring Oregon. Nevertheless, he withdrew his mental power in an instant. There were guards passing by the mine at all times. If their mental strength was detected by others, then their secret would be exposed. According to my observations during this period of time, there aren't many people guarding this mine because no one would think that someone would use this method to leave. Feng Qing lowered her voice. On the day the stewards go out to gather, the cultivators guarding the outside of the mine will enter to guard the cultivators in case anyone wants to escape. Chapter 62:27. From the looks of it, this method is indeed feasible. Bewitching's lips curled into a faint smile. As long as they walked out of the mine, they would be in the abandoned immortal forest range. At that time, they would only need to be careful not to be caught by others, and they would be able to return smoothly. Feng Qing was elated to receive everyone's affirmation. He had been mining for so long, just for this day. Actually, it's a little difficult for me to get out with my own strength, so I need your help. Everyone's eyes shifted. Big Brother Feng, what do you need our help with? So far, Feng Qing had already planned everything. It seemed like he did not need any help at all. There's a layer of restriction at the other end of the mine that has been dug out. Earlier, when I was chatting with Li Wei, I got some information from him. He said that it's impossible to pass through this mine without 3 cultivators of the Radiant Sun realm and above working together. As soon as he said that, everyone's hearts sank. So, this was the most crucial problem. All of their joy seemed to have been dispelled at this moment. Bewitching frowned slightly. Big Brother Feng, we're only at the Heavenly Moon realm. The difference between us and the Radiant Moon realm is too great. After Feng Qing's introduction, everyone already understood that only cultivators who had reached the Radiant Moon realm and had a certain understanding of the immortal Tao could ascend to the immortal crossing domain. Compared to the cultivation that could be increased with hard work, the understanding of the immortal Tao was the most important. This was an illusory feeling that could not be achieved with the help of outsiders. Only one day, when you suddenly had an epiphany and had a better understanding of the world's rules, could you see the entrance to the immortal crossing domain and ascend. It was only then that everyone understood why so few cultivators from the upper realm were able to ascend to the upper realm. That was because the second condition really depended on luck. Some people only needed a moment of epiphany after breaking through to the Radiant Sun realm, and some people who had already broken through to the Radiant Sun realm would never be able to ascend without an epiphany. The rules of heaven and earth were the higher realm. I understand. Feng Qing nodded. I'm a cultivator of the Radiant Sun realm. At the same time, I have a talisman. This talisman can simulate an attack from a cultivator of the Radiant Sun realm. Not only that, I heard that this restriction has been in place for a long time, and it is gradually fading. In such a situation, in addition to the fact that cultivators have been trying to break the restriction and leave for so many years, I believe that the power of the restriction is not as strong as before. As long as all of you combine your strength and attack it together, we might be able to break it. Feng Qing's gaze was serious. This was his only hope. If he couldn't escape this time, then he would never be able to leave this place. Although Bewitching and the others were not strong enough, they were the only ones he could trust in the entire spirit-devouring mine. Hearing this, everyone fell into deep thought. Feng Qing had been preparing for this matter for so long. If they could not succeed this time, it would be equivalent to breaking all of Feng Qing's dreams. Seeing that everyone had fallen into silence, Feng Qing could not help but become anxious. Without the help of others, it would be impossible for him to leave this place with his strength alone. Chapter 62:28. Brother Feng, it's not that we're unwilling. We're just worried that if we can't break this restriction with our strength, it would be equivalent to destroying all your hopes. Bewitching's expression was solemn. Even though they had not known Feng Qing for a long time, they really hoped that Feng Qing could leave this place and successfully enter the immortal realm in the future. If they cut off Feng Qing's hope because they were not strong enough, this was obviously not an acceptable result. That's right, Brother Feng. Could it be that there are no trustworthy, brilliant Sun Realm cultivators in the spirit-devouring mine? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. If there is, I believe that he will be willing to keep this a secret and leave together. Feng Qing shook her head helplessly. These days, because I have a good relationship with Li Wei, in the eyes of many cultivators, I am in cahoots with him. Other than you new cultivators who don't have any hostility towards me, no one else can get close to me. Under circumstances that are beneficial to both sides, they probably won't make such a choice, Mo Yunjue said slowly. There were no eternal enemies, only eternal benefits. I've tried before, but because both sides don't trust each other enough, I can't tell this secret to others. They're on guard against me being sent by Li Wei to test them, and I need to be on guard against them. Instead of working together in such a situation where we don't trust each other, it's better to give up. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other. They could understand Feng Qing's thoughts. If they did not meet a friend who was trustworthy enough, it would be equivalent to handing their lives over to others. Don't worry. I've already summed up some experience from the cultivators who tried to escape. With your strength combined, you'll definitely be able to break through this restriction. Feng Qing looked at everyone nervously. I don't have any more time. Because this restriction is gradually loosening, Li Wei and the others have already reported the situation. In 3 months, the Immortal Realm will send out array masters to reinforce the restriction. When that time comes, I really won't have a chance. Everyone was slightly stunned. They did not expect all of this to happen so coincidentally. Looking at Feng Qing's expression, they understood that even without them, Feng Qing would probably want to give it a try. If they missed this opportunity, when the restriction weakened the next time, he would probably be like the other cultivators, with no chance of leaving. Brother Feng, we understand. Bewitching's eyes were deep. Since you trust us so much, we'll definitely do our best when the time comes. We'll definitely do our best. Thank you. Feng Qing looked at everyone's. Even if they were not strong enough, it was better than nothing. It was worth it to gamble everything in exchange for a sliver of freedom. After understanding of the situation, Imo Yunjue said Fong Qing shuddered to the outside world, to the outside the restriction of the immortal realm. Fong Yunjue's Fong. All right. Xiao Xuanzi became the leader, leading everyone back the way they came. However, just as he was about to return, Di Beichen's footsteps suddenly stopped. Chapter 62-29. Beichen, what's the matter with you? Bailey Hongzhuang saw Di Beichen stop and asked with concern. Di Beichen just stood there quietly. His black eyes were filled with shock and doubt. It took him a long time to recover. Wife, use your mental strength to sense this place. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was a little puzzled, but she still carefully sensed it. She couldn't help but widen her eyes when she sensed it. Her exquisite and beautiful face was filled with astonishment. How could this be? Previously, because the spirit devouring or had the effect of exhausting mental strength. Even if everyone came here, they had not used their mental strength. After all, other than mining, it was obviously not appropriate to waste mental strength in such a mine with an extremely low yield. Di Beichen only thought that Fong Qing had already dug this road so deep when he passed by. No one else had been here before, so there might be spirit-devouring stones nearby. It was just that this discovery was a little unexpected. After everyone saw Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's reactions, they all used their mental strength to investigate. With this, everyone's reaction was the same. Oh my God, am I seeing things? Shangwan Yingying rubbed her eyes. She had never thought of such a scene. Unless all of us are seeing things, all of this is real. Bali Yin-che said. Xiao Hei jumped excitedly on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder. Her huge round eyes sparkled with excitement. Master, are we rich? We are indeed rich. Her cherry-pink lips curled up slightly, and her gorgeous face became even more delicate and beautiful like a flower. Under the detection of their mental strength, there was a large number of spirit-devouring stones in front of them. At a glance, there were at least thousands of them. These spirit-devouring stones were not scattered, but gathered together. There were also black spirit-devouring stones. If they were not careful, they would be treated as ores. However, the rich power emitted from them was obviously not fake. How is this possible? Fong Qing looked at this scene in shock. He had spent a lot of time digging this tunnel and would come here almost every day. However, he had never found so many spirit-devouring stones here. If Di Beichun hadn't discovered it, perhaps he wouldn't have known that there was a spirit-devouring stone vein here until they left. Bali Yin-che chuckled. Big brother Fong, if you had moved your tunnel to the side, you would have found it. I really don't know if I'm lucky or not. Fong Qing could not help but sigh. She had almost discovered such a treasure land, but she had actually missed it just like that. Fortunately, he had brought everyone here today. Otherwise, they would have missed out on these spirit-devouring stones. The spirit-devouring stones here are really strange. There's so many of them gathered together. Linger raised her eyebrows slightly. Didn't you say that most of the spirit-devouring stones are scattered? The devouring spirit stones in the mine are indeed scattered, but there is also a situation where the devouring spirit stone veins appear. Only when the devouring spirit stone veins appear will a large number of devouring spirit stones appear together. Chapter 62-30. This place is indeed worthy of being a pit with an extremely high yield of ores. Fong Qing sighed as he looked around. It's just that no one expected there to be a spirit-devouring stone vein below. Big brother Fong, I can only say that you chose a good place. When Xiren chuckled, there's still a month's time. We could take advantage of this time to collect this spirit-devouring stone vein. And everyone's faces were filled with joy. Even though they didn't know enough about the immortal realm situation, just from how Li Wei and the others valued the spirit-devouring stone, They knew that this thing was also very precious in the immortal realms. In this way, they would at least have more confidence when they went to the immortal realms in the future. Moreover, with these spirit-devouring stones, their mental strength could also increase rapidly. Bailey Hongzhuang was very happy. Ever since she learned the summoning technique, what she needed the most was to increase her mental strength. This was because the stronger her mental strength, the more powerful and more demonic beasts she could summon. However, it was too difficult to increase her mental strength. She had already used up all the pills she had refined back then. Now that there were so many spirit-devouring stones, it was simply a heaven-sent opportunity. After the joy, everyone did not delay and immediately began to move. With so many spirit-devouring stones, even if they were gathered together, they were still extremely deep. It would take a lot of time to dig them out. Compared to the usual mining, everyone was full of energy at this moment. The spirit-devouring stone vein was not far from where they were. After spending some time to open up this place, the first spirit-devouring stone appeared in their line of sight. Bewitching took out the first spirit-devouring stone, and more spirit-devouring stones appear behind him. The range of the pit gradually expanded, and everyone began to dig around this area. One spirit-devouring stone after another was taken out. The treasures that were rarely seen were now being put into their bags like stones. Sweat dripped from everyone's foreheads, but no one felt tired at all. They only wanted to put these treasures in as soon as possible. After leaving this spirit-devouring mine, it would be difficult to find this spirit-devouring stone again in the future. It was not until the sky was about to brighten that everyone returned to the house when no one was paying attention. Looking at the devouring spirit stones in their respective Chinquan bags, everyone revealed a satisfied smile. With so many spirit-devouring stones, we don't have to worry about the erosion of spiritual energy. Shangguan Yingying couldn't hide the excitement on her face. I really want to go back and continue mining. Hearing this, everyone laughed softly. Yingying, you really look like a little money grubber. Shangguan Yingying smiled. What's wrong with being a money grubber? This was a treasure. If I didn't have to worry about being discovered by others, I would have really wanted to stay there and mine. The space in my Chinquan bag is getting more and more full, and I feel like I'm getting richer and richer. After we enter the mine today, let's find a secluded corner to cultivate. Since we have to mine at night, let's not waste time in the mine during the day. We can't let our strength fall because of this. Bewitching's expression was serious. Ever since he met Nailin Fu and the others, he understood the strength level of the cultivators in the celestial realm. Chapter 62:31. Even if it was just a low-level existence, it was still a formidable opponent for them. It could be seen that they still had too many shortcomings if they wanted to go to the immortal realm. Although the immortal realm of chaos was the way to get an identity card, according to Feng Qing's introduction, there were often cultivators from the immortal realm there. Since the cultivators from the immortal realm of chaos had the ability to kill cultivators from the immortal realm, then their strength was probably not inferior to the cultivators from the immortal realm. In that kind of environment, their strength might even be stronger than the cultivators from the immortal realm. The environment there was probably similar to the demonic abyss. In that kind of oppressive and bloody environment, if one did not have a certain level of self-protection, it was impossible to survive. All these situations made them deeply understand their current shortcomings. Because they were not strong enough, in the eyes of the cultivators from the immortal realm, they were just ants. Only by becoming stronger would they not be trampled on by others. Hearing Bewitching's words, everyone naturally understood what he meant and immediately nodded. We understand. Even if it's only a month, as long as we can improve our strength a little, the possibility of successfully leaving by then will be higher. Nailin Fu, when I become stronger, I will definitely go to the immortal realm to look for him. A cold light flashed in Xiren's eyes. That guy's arrogant appearance had hurt his self-esteem. When he became stronger, he had to trample all of this back. I hope that guy can live until then, Emo Yunjua said lightly. After dawn, everyone handed their Cosmos bags to Bailey Hongzhuang and put them into the Chaos Ring. Only a divine tool like the Chaos Ring could avoid detection and be discovered by others. In the depths of the mine, everyone found a secluded corner and began to cultivate. Bewitching quietly set up a small vital chi formation at the side, causing the vital chi in the surroundings to become denser. However, because it was a small vital chi formation, the effect was not big and it was not easy to be noticed. Not only that, when building the small vital chi formation, Bewitching also added a small formation. If any cultivator came within 100 meters of this place, he would be able to detect it immediately. After everything was set up, Bewitching returned to the team. Now that they knew the location of the devouring spirit stone vein, they had to be even more careful. They cannot be discovered by others too early. It would be a real pity if he was forced to leave this place. Seeing that Bewitching was becoming more and more proficient in setting up spirit arrays, everyone's hearts calmed down. Even though there was still a huge gap between them and the cultivators of the immortal region, it was fortunate that this gap was constantly shrinking. Whether it was cultivation or other aspects, everyone was making rapid progress. This was already the best situation. It wasn't until evening that everyone exited their cultivation state. Everyone placed 3 spirit devouring stones in their baskets and slowly walked out. When Li Wei saw that everyone had completed their tasks, he didn't care too much about it. In his opinion, these people were a team. The reason why they were so evenly distributed was probably because they had helped each other. They didn't mind such a situation as long as they could complete their missions every day. However, they didn't know that compared to the spirit-devouring stones they handed over, the spirit-devouring stones they obtained were much more. In the dead of night, the sky was filled with stars. Chapter 62-32. The abandoned mine was very quiet. Usually, no one would come here. However, when they went to the mine, they had to be careful to avoid being seen by others. It was not until they arrived at the mine that everyone quietly heaved a sigh of relief and quickened their pace towards the tunnel. They had been digging for spirit-devouring stones here for several nights, but the size of this spirit-devouring stone vein was almost beyond their imagination. Even though they had been putting away the spirit-devouring stone for the past few days, this spirit-devouring stone vein did not seem to have changed at all. The number of spirit-devouring stones left was still a huge number. If only we had discovered this spirit-devouring stone vein earlier. Now that I think about it, we really wasted time. When Xiron wiped the sweat off his forehead and sighed, everyone nodded. They had indeed wasted too much time previously. A month should be about enough. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the pile of spirit-devouring stones in front of her. With so many of them working together, their speed was actually very fast. It was rare to encounter such a spirit-devouring stone vein. No one was willing to give it up. After all, if they wanted to enter the immortal realm in the future, this spirit-devouring stone would probably be of great use. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, everyone could not help but think for a while. Then, their hands moved even faster. Although Xiao He and Xiao Bai were in the form of demonic beasts, as 2 money grubbers, their speed at this time was often beyond everyone's imagination. The claws of the 2 little fellows were even more agile than everyone's hands. They quickly moved the spirit-devouring stones into their Cosmos bags. Every night, everyone gathered here tacitly. They did not rush back until the sky gradually brightened. Fortunately, everything went smoothly and no one discovered them. In the blink of an eye, 7 days had passed. Just as Fong Qing said, in the afternoon, all the stewards went out one after another. At the same time, the cultivators guarding outside the spirit-devouring stone vein also came inside one after another, on guard against any cultivators who would choose to escape today. Just based on the situation in front of us, the security is even stricter than usual. Bailey Yinshe sized up the situation in front of him. Usually, there were already quite a number of cultivators guarding the place. Now that the cultivators outside had also entered, there was almost 1 person guarding the place every few dozen meters. trying to escape under such circumstances was as difficult as ascending to the heavens, because there were a few waves of cultivators who took advantage of this day to escape. Gradually, every time this day comes, the spirit-devouring mind will be guarded very strictly. Fong Qing slowly said, because of the change in the guard situation, no one has thought of taking advantage of today to escape. Zyra nodded. If you still want to escape under such circumstances, wouldn't you be courting death? But with so many people gathered here, as long as we leave the mine, our every move will be clearly seen. Under such circumstances, it will be very difficult for us to sneak into the abandoned mine, right? Mo Yunjue furrowed his brows. Usually, because there weren't many people rarely paid attention to the abandoned mine. Therefore, they were able to sneak over in the dead of night. However, after seeing the way the guards were standing guard today, he felt that it would be more difficult to leave today than usual. That was because it was very difficult for them to even reach the abandoned mine. Chapter 62:33. On the day of the gathering, we just need to think of a way to run to the abandoned mine. All the guards are inside. Even if we dig through the mine, they won't know for a while. When we blast open the restriction, they will need some time to react. As long as we can leave before they arrive, it will be fine. If it were any other time, I'm afraid we wouldn't be able to dig through the tunnel in peace. If we are discovered as soon as we dig through, then we won't have any chance. Fong Qing explained his plan to everyone in detail. In fact, he had weighed the pros and cons for a long time before he made up his mind. No matter when, it would be very difficult to escape from the spirit-devouring mine. He had stayed in the spirit-devouring mine for so long and had seen many people try to leave, but so far, no one had succeeded. Therefore, he spent more time preparing for all of this. Even though he still couldn't guarantee a 100% success rate, this was already the best way he could think of to increase the chances of success. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others expressed their understanding. Thinking about it, every cultivator in the spirit-devouring mine was bought with money. Naturally, they were strictly guarded. If they escaped, their losses would not be small. According to my observations these days, the stewards will come back when it's dark. This was the most relaxed time in the spirit-devouring mine. They would all chat with each other because the miners had already returned to their residences. Therefore, what we need to prepare is to take advantage of this time to escape to the abandoned mine. If we can't escape, then it means that we have failed, Fong Qing said in a deep voice. Understood. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head lightly. After paying 3 spirit-devouring stones, she returned to her residence. On this day, everyone had been carefully observing the layout of the spirit-devouring mine. When night fell, they heard voices of conversation coming from the door. Li Wei and the others were obviously drunk and in a good mood, so their voices became louder. Sounds of conversation could be heard outside, and Bailey Hongzhuang and the others took advantage of this time to tiptoe out of the residence, choosing a more secluded corner to observe the surrounding environment. With this look, they realized that Fong Qing was right. Compared to the meticulous patrolling from before, everyone was obviously much more relaxed now. Many people gathered around to listen to the news brought back by the stewards. Even though there were still many people patrolling the area, because their attention was on the other side, it was very likely that they would take advantage of this opportunity to escape. In order to determine if they could really succeed, everyone did so. The group of people who had changed into night clothes were not conspicuous under the cover of the night. With a sweep of their bodies, they quickly disappeared from the spot. The cultivator in charge of guarding the place only took a glance subconsciously and felt that something seemed to have flashed by just now. However, after noticing that there was nothing, he continued to listen to the steward's conversation. In the abandoned mine. Only when they reached the abandoned mine did they heave a sigh of relief. It was really quite dangerous just now. If I wasn't fast enough, I might have been discovered. Shangwan Yingying took a deep breath. When she was running away, one of the guards had clearly looked over. At that time, she felt her heart skip a beat, but fortunately she succeeded. Chapter 62:34. If I'm not wrong, after the stewards return, it won't be long before the other guards return to their original places. Bewitching's expression became solemn again. How much time do we have in between? We have 2 incense sticks a time. Seeing that Bewitching had already guessed all of this, Fangqing did not hide it and directly explained the situation. The cultivators in charge of guarding will have a short period of relaxation after talking to the stewards and will soon return to the outside of the mine. However, during this period of time, their attitude will be very relaxed. We ran from our residence to the abandoned mine, then ran to the tunnel, and then dug through the last of the spirit-devouring ores. All of this is really a race against time. Mo Yunjue's expression became solemn. Although everything was almost ready, it was not easy to complete all of this in the limited time. If everything went smoothly, the time of 2 incense sticks of time was very tight. If there was a small mistake in a certain segment that day, then the entire plan might be interrupted. Fangqing looked embarrassed. There's nothing we can do about it. We only have this chance. Looking at the nervous Fangqing, Bewitching smiled faintly and said, "It's theoretically feasible to calculate all of this. We don't have to be too pessimistic. When the time comes, everything might go smoothly." Even though Bewitching tried to lighten the atmosphere, everyone understood that it was definitely not an easy task to complete all of this. When the time came, they had to exert their fastest speed. After arriving at the tunnel, everyone did not immediately dig. Instead, they went to the deepest part of the tunnel and dug the tunnel a little further forward. It was not until this distance was extremely short that they could completely dig through it with just a little bit of effort. Only then did everyone feel relieved. The spirit-devouring ores were very hard. Even if the inside had been dug through, nothing could be seen on the surface. There was no need to worry about it collapsing. This was one of the benefits. When everyone was ready, they found that the guards outside had returned. They could vaguely hear the sound of conversation. Seeing this, everyone held their breaths and slowly moved to the place where the spirit-devouring ores were and began to dig. In the next few days, everyone passed peacefully. They dug at night and cultivated during the day. Everyone's cultivation base was gradually increasing. Li Wei, don't you think that Fangqing's subordinates are a little strange? Guchun moved to Li Wei's side and voiced his doubts. Hearing this, Li Wei could not help but frown. What's strange? These guys have been in the spirit-devouring mine for more than half a month. They can complete the mission on time every day, and from their state, they are not as pessimistic and depressed as the others. Isn't that strange? As the steward of the spirit-devouring mine, Guchun had been here for many years and had seen many cultivators. Almost everyone who came here had a look of unwillingness on their faces. Mining every day was a painful torture for them. In the beginning, they had to use whips to tell them that there was no other way out. Later on, their mental state would become worse and worse. Chapter 62:35. What's so strange about that? Li Wei asked. Maybe they know that it's useless to resist. Instead of being beaten, they might as well complete their daily tasks obediently and avoid physical pain. That may be the case, but you know the situation of mining. How can they complete their tasks so smoothly every day? Guchun's eyes were full of thoughts, and I think their mental state is not as bad as other practitioners. Maybe they are secretly using the spirit-devouring stone inside. As soon as he said that, Li Wei, who had been indifferent, became serious. That's impossible, right? What's impossible about that? Guchun asked. Because other people can't complete their tasks every day, they don't have to worry about such a situation. However, these guys are strange. Plus, they are young and strong and have not suffered any physical pain. If they found more spirit-devouring stones and didn't hand them over, since they couldn't take them away, they might have directly absorbed them in the mine. If that's the case, it's terrible. Li Wei's eyes narrowed. They knew the value of the spirit-devouring stone very well. If the miners dared to use the spirit-devouring stone, it would be terrible. I think we'd better take the opportunity to go down and have a look. If that's the case, we must stop it early. Staying in the spirit-devouring mine, they had seen smart practitioners. Many abandoned people did not know that the spirit-devouring stone could improve mental strength. As long as they could absorb the spirit-devouring stone while mining, the effects of the two would cancel each other out. They had never told anyone about this, but if they were found out and the miners followed suit, it would be terrible. Okay, Li Wei's face darkened. If he found out that this was the case, he would teach these guys a lesson. How could these abandoned people be qualified to use something as precious as the spirit-devouring stone? As usual, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others chose a remote corner to practice. It was very hot in the mine. Fortunately, the vitality was rich. In order to practice, no matter how difficult the environment was, everyone could bear it. Li Wei and Gu Chun walked into the mine. Along the way, they saw a lot of people mining hard, but after looking for a long time, they did not see the figure of Di Beichun and the others. The two gradually confirmed their conjectures. Could be that these guys are really so daring? Li Wei's anger gradually surged. If this matter was confirmed, even if Di Beichun and the others could complete their tasks on time every day, he would still execute them on the spot. Not only that, he also had to pay a hefty price to make Gu Chun shut up. After all, his subordinate had done such a thing. Once news of this spread, he would also be punished. When he thought of this, he couldn't help but feel irritated, and his anger exploded uncontrollably. Gu Chun, on the other hand, was very calm. The abandoned people are not that stupid now. I think that Fong Qing is also a smart guy. You'd better be a little better. It's not a big deal if I find out about this, but if others find out about it, it might be troublesome. Hearing this, Li Wei fell into silence, but his heart became even more irritated. Sure enough, the reason why this guy reminded him of this was because he didn't have good intentions. Chapter 62-36. Di Beichun, who was cultivating, suddenly felt a vibration in front of him. So he immediately warned everyone, "Be careful, someone's coming." As soon as he said that, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others stopped cultivating, picked up shovels, and began digging. Di Beichun put away the formation at the same time, and everyone spread out a little. They pretended to be very real, and no one could tell that there was anything wrong with them. They were already prepared long ago, so the place where they were digging was where there were spirit-devouring ores. When Li Wei and Gu Chun arrived, they saw this scene, but they did not directly walk to Di Beichun and the others. Instead, they watched quietly from the back. With their abilities, they could easily see Di Beichun and the others' every move through their mental power. Li Wei heaved a sigh of relief when he saw this. Fortunately, he didn't see the scene that he didn't want to see. Gu Chun frowned slightly and said, "These fellas might have been prepared long ago. It's better for us to continue observing." Although Li Wei did not want to pay much attention to Gu Chun, he felt that what Gu Chun said made sense. After all, it was strange for so many of them to stay in the deepest part of the mine. Be careful, they haven't left yet. Bali Yen Che secretly transmitted his voice. As a beast king, his mental power was the most sensitive, and he was also the most sensitive to auras. Even if Li Wei and Gu Chun did not appear in their sight, he could still sense their presence. It seems like Stewardly is starting to suspect us. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart sank. During this period, they were worried that they would act wrong, so they deliberately pretended to be a little bit. Every time they appeared in front of Li Wei and the others, they would pretend that their mental powers were gradually deteriorating and that their conditions were not as good as before. However, they did not expect to be suspected under such a disguise. At this moment, Di Beichun dug out a piece of spirit-devouring ores, then looked at everyone's bamboo baskets and said, "Is there anyone who hasn't completed today's mission?" Hearing Di Beichun's words, everyone was a little confused at first, but after all, they had been friends for so many years, and their tacit understanding was needless to say. Shangwan Yingying immediately said, "I'm still missing one piece." "I'm also missing one piece." Bailey Hongzhuang sighed and said, Di Beichun threw the spirit-devouring ores to Shangguan Yingying. Continue digging. You're only missing one piece to complete the goal. At this moment, Bai Li Wei also dug out a piece and said, Sister, this piece is for you. We can rest today. Everyone couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief as a comfortable expression appeared on their faces. Li Wei quietly watched this scene. This situation was not beyond his expectations. In his opinion, Di Beichun and the others must be helping each other. Otherwise, they would not be able to complete the mission on time every day. I also have one piece here, Mo Yunjua suddenly said. Today's mission can be considered to have been completed more than expected. Following Mo Yunjua's words, Li Wei and Ge Chun's bodies tensed up. It was obvious that they were prepared. If Mo Yunjue and the others dared to use this spirit-devouring ores without permission, they would turn them into ashes in the next moment. However, Di Beichun's next words made the two people's bodies relax. Chapter 60-37. It's a good thing that no one usually comes to our location. No one should find out if we hide the spirit-devouring stones here. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. There was a trace of cunning and pride in her eyes. Otherwise, we would have to hand over so many spirit-devouring stones every day. If we can't complete it, we would have to suffer physical pain. It's a good thing that Big Brother Fong taught us this trick. Although our days are quite tough, it's not bad compared to the others. Di Beichun was full of smiles. Since today's mission is completed, let's go back. After a day of mining, I'm exhausted. We can't let go of our cultivation. Otherwise, our condition will get worse and worse. Everyone sighed with emotion. After packing up the bamboo baskets, they turned around and walked towards the exit. It was not until Di Beichun and the others left that Li Wei and Ge Chun arrived at the place where they had been. Looking at the spirit-devouring stones that were hidden tightly at the side, a smile appeared on Li Wei's face. Ge Chun, it seems that you're worrying too much. Ge Chun's expression was a little ugly. According to his judgment, Di Beichun and the others had definitely used the spirit-devouring stones. However, he did not expect to see such a scene after arriving. Were these guys really so honest? No, there was definitely something wrong with this. Li Wei, could they have sensed our approach? Hearing this, Li Wei could not help but chuckle. How is that possible? They're only cultivators in the heavenly moon realm. With their strength, how could they have sensed our auras? Maybe some cultivators are naturally more sensitive to these auras. Without waiting for Ge Chun to finish speaking, Li Wei interrupted him. You're thinking too much. Such a thing would never happen. I've said it before. They're not as complicated as you think. They're just more open-minded than other cultivators. Look at Fong Qing. Didn't he do the same? People like them are much easier to manage than those guys. They can complete the mission every day. Why should we treat them harshly? Ge Chun opened his mouth. Even though he was still full of doubts, he could no longer say anything against it. The scene just now really made him unable to continue to misinterpret Di Beichun and the others. But in the face of such a result really made him somewhat unwilling, compared to the gloomy feeling he had when he arrived. Li Wei was extremely pleased when he left. Ge Chun, although it's very troublesome to discipline those disobedient, abandoned people, it can't be helped. If you want to meet such an obedient subordinate, you can only rely on luck. It's not that easy to meet one. Looking at Li Wei's smug look, Ge Chun was even angrier. Di Beichun's group had quite a number of people, a total of 9. Every day, they could hand over 27 spirit-devouring stones. Originally, his monthly performance was about the same as Li Wei's, but ever since Di Beichun's group appeared, his performance couldn't be compared to Li Wei's. This time, Li Wei's number of spirit-devouring stones was the highest. Not only was he praised, he also received a substantial reward. After returning, he carefully observed Di Beichun and the others. He felt that there was definitely a problem. After thinking about it again and again, he confirmed the result. However, he didn't expect that it would be resolved so easily. Thinking about it, he was really unwilling. I'm only doing it for your own good. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.